The Battle of Mogadishu, or Day of the Ranges, was part of Operation Gothic Serpent and was fought on 3 and 4 October 1993, in Mogadishu, Somalia, between vastly outnumbered forces of the United States, supported by UNOSOM-2, and Somali militiamen loyal to the self-proclaimed President-to-be Mohamed Farah aided, who had support from armed civilian fighters. A U.S. Army force in Mogadishu, consisting primarily of U.S. Army Rangers from Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, C Squadron, 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, better known as Delta Force, as well as Air Force combat controllers and Air Force pararescuemen and helicopters from 1st Battalion. 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, attempted to seize 2 of Aidid's high-echelon lieutenants during a meeting in the city. Shortly after the assault began, Somali militia and armed civilian fighters shot down 2 UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters. The subsequent operation to secure and recover the crews of both helicopters drew the raid, intended to last no more than an hour, into an overnight standoff in the city. The battle resulted in 18 deaths, 73 wounded, and 1 helicopter pilot captured among the U.S. raid party and rescue forces. At least 1 Pakistani soldier and 1 Malaysian soldier were killed as part of the rescue forces. American sources estimate between 1,500 and 3,000 Somali casualties, including civilians. SNA forces claim 315 killed, with 812 wounded. The battle is also referred to as the First Battle of Mogadishu to distinguish it from the Second Battle of Mogadishu of 2006. Summary: Task Force Ranger, which consisted of an assault force made up of U.S. Army Delta Force operators, Army Rangers, Air Force pararescuemen, Air Force combat controllers, 4 Navy SEALs from the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, and an air element provided by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, under Major General William F. Garrison's command executed an operation that involved traveling from their compound on the city's outskirts to the center with the aim of capturing the leaders of the Habrgidr clan, led by Mohamed Farah aidid. The assault force consisted of 19 aircraft, 12 vehicles, and 160 men. During the operation, 2 U.S. Black Hawk helicopters were shot down by RPGs and 3 others were damaged. Some of the wounded survivors were able to evacuate to the compound, but others remained near the crash sites and were isolated. An urban battle ensued and continued throughout the night. Early the next morning, a combined task force was sent to rescue the trapped soldiers. It contained soldiers from the Pakistan Army, the Malaysian Army and the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division. They assembled some 100 vehicles, including Pakistani tanks and Malaysian Condor armored personnel carriers, and were supported by U.S. MH-6 Little Bird and MH-60L Black Hawk helicopters. This task force reached the first crash site and rescued the survivors. The second crash site had been overrun by hostile Somalis during the night. Delta snipers Gary Gordon and Randy Shuffart volunteered to hold them off until ground forces arrived. A Somali mob with thousands of combatants eventually overran the 2 men. That site's lone surviving American, pilot Michael Durant, had been taken prisoner but was later released. The exact number of Somali casualties is unknown, but estimates range from several hundred to over 1,000 militiamen and others killed, with injuries to another 3,000–4,000. The International Committee of the Red Cross estimated 200 Somali civilians killed and several hundred wounded in the fighting, with reports that some civilians attacked the Americans. The book Black Hawk Down, A Story of Modern War estimates more than 700 Somali militiamen dead and more than 1,000 wounded. But the Somali National Alliance in a Frontline documentary on American television acknowledged only 133 killed in the whole battle. The Somali casualties were reported in the Washington Post as 312 killed and 814 wounded. The Pentagon initially reported 5 American soldiers were killed, but the toll was actually 18 American soldiers dead and 73 wounded. 2 days later, a 19th soldier, Delta operator SFC Matt Ryerson, was killed in a mortar attack. Among UN forces, 1 Malaysian and 1 Pakistani died, 7 Malaysians and 2 Pakistanis were wounded. At the time, the battle was the bloodiest involving U.S. troops since the Vietnam War and remained so until the Second Battle of Fallujah in 2004. On the 24th of July 1996, Aidid was wounded during a firefight between his militia and forces loyal to former Aidid allies, Ali Mahdi Mohammed and Osman Ali Atto. He suffered a fatal heart attack on 1 August 1996, either during or after surgery to treat his wounds. The following day, General Garrison retired. Background: in January 1991, Somalian President Mohamed Siad Barre was overthrown in the ensuing civil war by a coalition of opposing clans. The Somali National Army concurrently disbanded and some former soldiers reconstituted as irregular regional forces or joined the clan militias. The main rebel group in the capital Mogadishu was the United Somali Congress, which later divided into 2 armed factions. One led by Ali Mahdi Mohammed, who became president, and the other by Mohammed Farah Aidid. In total, there were 4 opposition groups that competed for political control: the USC, Somali Salvation Democratic Front, Somali Patriotic Movement and Somali Democratic Movement. In June 1991, a ceasefire was agreed to, but failed to hold. A 5th group, the Somali National Movement, later declared independence in the Somalia's northwest portion in June. The SNM renamed the unrecognized territory Somaliland, with its leader Abdurrahman Ahmed Ali Toure selected as president. In September 1991, severe fighting broke out in Mogadishu, which continued in the following months and spread throughout the country, with over 20,000 people killed or injured by the end of the year. These wars led to the destruction of Somalia's agriculture, which in turn led to starvation in large parts of the country. The international community began to send food supplies to halt the starvation, but vast amounts of food were hijacked and brought to local clan leaders, who routinely exchanged it with other countries for weapons. An estimated 80% of the food was stolen. In July 1992, after a ceasefire between the opposing clan factions, the UN sent 50 military observers to watch the food's distribution. Operation Provide Relief began in August 1992, when the U.S. President George H.W. Bush announced that U.S. military transports would support the multinational UN relief effort in Somalia. 10 C-130s and 400 people were deployed to Mombasa, Kenya, airlifting aid to Somalia's remote areas and reducing reliance on truck convoys. One member of the 86th Supply Squadron, USAF's only contribution to the operation, was deployed with the ground support contingent. The C-130s delivered 48,000 tons of food and medical supplies in 6 months to international humanitarian organizations trying to help Somalia's more than 3 million starving people. When this proved inadequate to stop the massive death and displacement of the Somali people, the U.S. launched a major coalition operation to assist and protect humanitarian activities in December 1992. This operation, called Operation Restore Hope, saw the U.S. assuming the unified command in accordance with Resolution 794. The U.S. Marine Corps landed the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit in Mogadishu and, with elements of 1st Battalion, 7th Marines and 3rd Battalion, 11th Marines, secured nearly 1/3 of the city, the port, and airport facilities within 2 weeks. With the intent to facilitate airlift of humanitarian supplies, Elements of the 2nd Battalion, HMLA 369, 9th Marines, and 1st Battalion, 7th Marines quickly secured routes to Baidoa, Baladogle and Kishmayur, then were reinforced by the 3rd Assault Amphibian Battalion and the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division. Mission shift. On 3 March 1993, the UN Secretary-General Boutros Ghali submitted to the UN Security Council his recommendations for effecting the transition from UNITAF to UNOSOM2. He indicated that since Resolution 794's adoption in December 1992, UNITAF's presence and operations had created a positive impact on Somalia's security situation and on the effective delivery of humanitarian assistance. However, there was still no effective government, police, or national army, with the result of serious security threats to UN personnel. To that end, the Security Council authorized UNOSOM2 to establish a secure environment throughout Somalia, to achieve national reconciliation so as to create a democratic state. At the Conference on National Reconciliation in Somalia, held on 15 March 1993, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, all 15 Somali parties agreed to the terms set out to restore peace and democracy. Yet, by May it became clear that, although a signatory to the March Agreement, Mohammed Farah Aidid's faction would not cooperate in the agreement's implementation. Aidid began to broadcast anti-UN propaganda on Radio Mogadishu after believing that the UN was purposefully marginalizing him in an attempt to rebuild Somalia. Lieutenant General Sevik Burr ordered the radio station shut down, in an attempt to quash the beginning of what could turn into a rebellion. Civilian spies throughout UNOSOMI's headquarters likely led to the uncovering of the UN's plan. Aidid ordered SNA militia to attack a Pakistani force on 5 June 1993, that had been tasked with the inspection of an arms cache located at the radio station, possibly out of fear that this was a task force sent to shut down the broadcast. The result was 24 dead, and 57 wounded Pakistani troops, as well as 1 wounded Italian and 3 wounded American soldiers. On 6 June 1993, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 837, for the arrest and prosecution of the persons responsible for the death and wounding of the peacekeepers. On 12 June, U.S. troops started attacking targets in Mogadishu in hopes of finding Aidid, a campaign which lasted until 16 June. On 17 June, a $25,000 warrant was issued by Admiral Jonathan Howe for information leading to Aidid's arrest, but he was never captured. Howe also requested a counter-terrorist rescue force after the Pakistanis' deaths. Attack on Safe House. On 12 July 1993, a US-led operation was launched on what was believed to be a safe house where Aidid was hiding in Mogadishu. During the 17-minute combat operation, U.S. Cobra attack helicopters fired 16 TOW missiles and thousands of 20mm cannon rounds into the compound, killing 60 people. However, the number of Somali fatalities was disputed. Abdi Kibdarad, Aidid's interior minister, claimed 73 dead, including women and children who had been in the safe house. The reports Jonathan Howe got after the attack placed the number of dead at 20, all men. The International Committee of the Red Cross said the number of dead at 54. Aidid was not present. The operation would lead to the deaths of 4 journalists, Dan Eldon, Hos Maina, Hansi Kraus and Anthony Makaraya, who were killed by angry Mogadishu mobs when they arrived to cover the incident, which presaged the Battle of Mogadishu. Some believe that this American attack was a turning point in unifying Somalis against U.S. efforts in Somalia, including former moderates and those opposed to the Habagidir Task Force Ranger. On 8 August 1993, Aidid's militia detonated a remote-controlled bomb against a U.S. military vehicle, killing 4 soldiers. 2 weeks later, another bomb injured 7 more. In response, U.S. President Bill Clinton approved the proposal to deploy a special task force composed of 400 U.S. Army Rangers and Delta Force operators. This unit, named Task Force Ranger, consisted of 160 elite U.S. troops. On the 22nd of August, the unit deployed to Somalia under the command of Major General William F. Garrison, commander of Joint Special Operations Command at the time. The force consisted of B Company, 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, C Squadron, 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, a deployment package of 16 helicopters and personnel from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, which included MH-60 Black Hawks and MH-6 Little Birds. Navy SEALs from the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, Air Force pararescuemen and combat controllers from the 24th Special Tactics Squadron. On the 21st of September, Task Force Ranger captured AIDED's financier, Osman Ali Atto. 1st Black Hawk shot down at around 200 on the 25th of September. AIDED's men shot down a 101st Airborne Division Black Hawk with an RPG and killed 3 crew members at Newport near Mogadishu. The shootdown was a huge SNA psychological victory. Order of battle. U.S. and a UNOSOM units involved in the battle. Task Force Ranger, including C Squadron, 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, aka Delta Force Bravo Company, 3rd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, 1st Battalion, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment with MH-6J and R-6 Little Birds, and MH-60A-L Black Hawks combat controllers and pararescuemen from the 24th Special Tactics Squadron. Navy SEALs from the Naval Special Warfare Development Group CVN-72 Abraham Lincoln and Carrier Air Wing 11. Task Force 10th Mountain Division, including 1st Battalion, 22nd Infantry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 14th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Platoon, C Company, 1st Battalion, 87th Infantry Regiment, 15th Battalion, of the Frontier Force Regiment, Pakistan Army, 19th Lancers of the Pakistan Army, 10th Battalion, of the Balak Regiment of Pakistan Army. Included with the TF was the 977 MPCO, UN Forces 19th Battalion, Royal Malay Regiment of the Malaysian Army, 11th Regiment, Grup Darat Khas 7th Battalion, Frontier Force Regiment of the Pakistan Army. USC, SNA. The size and organizational structure of the Somali militia forces involved in the battle are not known in detail. In all, between 2,000–4,000 regular faction members are believed to have participated, almost all of whom belong to AIDED Somali National Alliance. They drew largely from his Habagidir Hawiya clan, who battled U.S. troops starting 12 July 1993. The Somali National Alliance was formed 14 August 1992. It began as the United Somali Congress under AIDED's leadership. At the time of Operation Gothic Serpent, the SNA was composed of Kal Omar's Somali Patriotic Movement, the Somali Democratic Movement, the combined Digil and Mirafla clans, the Habagidir of the United Somali Congress headed by AIDED, and the newly established Southern Somali National Movement. After formation, the SNA immediately staged an assault against the militia of the Hafid el-Hawiya clan, who controlled the Mogadishu port area. As a result, the Hafid el-Hawiya were pushed out of the area, and AIDED's forces took control.